Welcome to Chaos Makes Magic, a podcast for feminine reclamation, where messiness is our muse and we embrace the multidimensionality of the feminine experience. Hi guys, welcome back to Chaos Makes Magic. I say this every time, but I'm so excited to get this episode out to you guys. If you missed it, I am now releasing episodes every other Thursday rather than every Thursday, just to honor my own energy, honestly, and also to honor yours, because a lot of what I am sharing in these episodes are things for you to sit with and integrate with, and I really want to give you the time to be able to do that, and then also give myself the time and the space to get the stuff out to you guys. I have a lot of other things going on within my business and have a really big announcement at the end of this episode for you, so definitely stick around for that. I don't know about you guys, but with the seasons changing, with us moving into darker days, I am tired. I have been so exhausted lately. I've been seeing so many other people talking about that, and I really do just feel like we're in this potent energy right now of really upgrading. I think a lot of us are moving through upgrades and just really stepping more into our gifts and our purpose. But in doing that and in getting these upgrades, we need more rest. And the winter is a really beautiful time to do that. So just take this as your reminder to balance what you're doing over the next couple of months. And of course, don't swing too far in either direction, but just be really aware of your body and your needs over the next few months, and know that it's okay to take things a bit slower and to really just slow down, go inward and reflect, which kind of leads us into the topic of this episode, the spiral path where becoming is the destination. So over the last couple of years, I've really been reflecting on how often I've tried to force myself onto a linear path. At the beginning of my healing journey back in 2020 and 2021, I really did have this belief or idea that I was on this linear path of healing, and that once I finally healed enough, I would be worthy of what I wanted, or I would be where I wanted to be. And I used to shame myself so much for not being consistent, or shame myself for the ways that I move or the ways that I sometimes fall off track. I've moved through a lot of cycles of feeling super confident and sure and excited, and then moving into cycles of literally not knowing what I'm doing, having no clue like what my path ahead is, feeling really consumed by fear and sadness, even depression as well. And I've just moved through a lot of cycles of becoming and unbecoming. I used to think that I needed to land somewhere. I used to think that I needed to heal enough in order to, again, be worthy of what it was that I wanted, or be worthy of that big, beautiful dream that I had. And I also used to think that I needed to become somebody and like stick to that, rather than allowing myself to just evolve and just flow with how I'm feeling and how I'm becoming and who I am and all of that. And what I've learned through my womb and cycle journey, especially in the last like 2 to 3 years, I'd say, is that I am on the spiral path. And the spiral path is very much so this feminine path, this feminine way of being that we really truly do move through as women, because we have a womb, because we are cyclical. We are so deeply connected to the earth and the cosmos. And the spiral path is really this path of descending and ascending. It's this path of going inward and then expressing outward, this path of finding ourselves over and over again, and really like peeling back all the layers that are not ours in order to come home to who we truly are. Like, again, it really is this path of becoming, not this path of healing or achieving or fixing. It really is just becoming and enjoying every moment and every step of that, rather than being in this mindset of like, I can enjoy it once I get there, or I will be worthy of X, Y, and Z once I heal this and that, because that just becomes destructive, honestly. And it was something that I really fell into, and then it also really took me into this loop of perfectionism. And I really felt like I needed to be perfect. I needed to have it all together. I needed to always be happy and always be expressing that love and that light. It's like that toxic love and light that we are starting to hear more about out there. But I always thought that I had to do all of that, and that if I started to sink into depression, if I started to feel sad again, if my nervous system started to contract again, that I was doing something wrong, when in reality, that was just my body calling me inward. That was my body calling me home to recalibrate with what is going on, to learn more, to shed more layers so that I can step into who I'm here to become, so that I can become. So before we get into it, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Please, as always, share this with any women in your life that you think would benefit from this medicine and this magic, because again, that is why I'm here, just here to spread the word, to spread wisdom, and just, help women on their journey. So thank you. So if you're here, welcome to the spiral path, because your path was never meant to be linear. We're going to be chatting all about the spiral path. I'm going to definitely get more into my story. I kind of briefed on it a little bit, but definitely going to get deep into that. And then also what the spiral path is, the symbolism of the spiral and why this is the feminine path, and then how to really embody this journey. And I'm going to give you guys a very special announcement at the end as well, so stick around for that. I'm really excited. Alrighty, so what is the spiral path? The spiral is a very ancient symbol that reflects the universal pattern of growth and evolution, and it's really symbolic of the goddess, of the womb, of fertility, and of life force energy. It's really just a sacred symbol that reflects our journey in life. It is a path of the feminine and the path of becoming and unbecoming, and a journey of, again, really peeling back those layers that aren't yours. It's essentially like all of the layers that we have accumulated from our own experiences, from our ancestors, from past lives, all of these like collective layers that we hold, and really just peeling those back and stripping you down so that you can come into alignment and come closer to the woman that you are here to become. It is also the path of being a cyclical being. And so, of course, us women, we are cyclical. We move through our own cycle every single month. And being on the spiral path really does mean being so deeply and intimately connected and devoted to your cyclicality and how that works with the earth cycles, how that works with the moon cycles as well. And we're going to get into that. This is something that I love talking about. And I feel like there's a lot out there that doesn't explain this very well, or doesn't explain all of the different like connections to the moon phases for us women very well. So I'm really excited to get into that, because it is actually something that is really powerful and potent and important for every woman who bleeds to be aware of. So we'll first start with the 4 phases of our cycle just briefly, but we of course have 4 phases in our cycle as women. We have our follicular phase, which correlates to springtime. Springtime, we think about that, and that is when things start to bloom, when things are getting warmer. And for us women in our follicular phase, that is when our energy begins to rise, when our estrogen is rising and we are getting more energy. We are feeling more creative, we're feeling playful, and like essentially coming alive again. And then ovulation is our inner summer. So if we think about summertime, that is when the days are the longest. It is when it is warm, when we want to be outside, when we are wearing less clothing, like very much so more expression. And that is what ovulation is within us women. That is when we are really outwardly expressing, and when we have more energy, when we are in our peak creativity, when we feel like being around other people and socializing. And then we move into our luteal phase, and this is our inner autumn. And this is when we begin to really descend and spiral inward. This is when we are being asked to be more in reflection. And if we think about autumn in the earth, this is when we start to go more inward. We start to stay inside more because it is starting to get colder. It is starting to get darker. It really is this time of harvest and reflection and gratitude as well. And then wintertime correlates to menstruation. And this is really the void. Like this is when obviously everything is dying on the earth. And when we think about menstruation within us, it is very much so connected to that energy of death. It is when we are at that end of the cycle, we are shedding, we are releasing so that we can then step into a new cycle. Alrighty, now for our connection to the moon. So this is what I was talking about that is somewhat talked about on social media. Like I really do see parts of it being talked about, but not the whole picture. So usually on a full moon, you'll see women talking about like, oh, if you're bleeding with this full moon, you're so powerful, or whatever the case may be. But the truth is, any moon phase that you bleed with is powerful and holds a lot of significance for the chapter of life that you are in. And I have been tracking the moon phase that I bleed with for the last like 2.5 years, and I've moved through all of them. And I'll go through all of them for you guys as well. And I also have a free guide, Cycle 101, where I have a tracker so that you can actually track this for yourself and also just like learn a little bit about it, but we'll go into detail. So there is 4. The first one is a white moon cycle, and this is when you are bleeding with the new moon. So it's like within 3 days or so around the new moon, and you can kind of intuitively track this as well. But this is the most typical cycle that women can be in. This was very traditional, I guess, in ancient times, and women were much more synced up then because they didn't have computers and all the like artificial light and everything that we have now. But bleeding with the new moon, being in a white moon cycle, is very symbolic of just tending to yourself and tending to your family. It's a time to really think about what self-care means to you and how you can really pour more into yourself and really fill your own cup rather than trying to fill others up. It is this beautiful time of just recharging, and a lot of mothers will be in this cycle. And again, it's a good time to tend to your family as well. And if you don't have children, if you just have you and your partner, then really pouring into that, pouring into your relationship. And if it's just you, then pouring all of that into yourself and really, again, just filling up your cup. And then there's the pink moon cycle. So this is bleeding with a waxing moon, which is when the moon is appearing to get bigger in the sky. So from a new moon to a full moon. And this is a very transitional cycle to be in, and very much so gives the energy of the follicular phase and of that maiden archetype. It's a very explorative time. It's a time where you might feel called to explore different interests of yours. You might feel called to try new things out, and it's a lot of trial and error as well. And I always find it just easy to relate back to business and being an entrepreneur. And I know a lot of women here are entrepreneurs or wanting to start their own business. But if you are in a pink moon cycle, if you bleed with the waxing moon, this is such a potent time of transition for you. You might be in this phase of your business or work where you don't fully feel aligned with everything that you are doing, and you know there's something else for you, but you don't fully know what it is yet. And so you're kind of in that in-between phase, and it's really important to allow yourself to try things out without fear of failure, like really experiment here. And then a red moon cycle. This is another really popular one that we see a lot on social media that is bleeding with the full moon. And this one is very representative of self-actualizing your gifts and really stepping into your gifts and your magic. The red moon cycle is very associated with the healers and the mystics and the priestesses because they ovulate with the new moon. And so when you're ovulating, you have the most energy. That is when you are the most energized. But on a new moon, that is when collectively the energy is not as heightened. And so they really had that energy then to pour into others while everybody else didn't necessarily have that energy, if that makes sense. But if you are in a red moon cycle, this is a really potent time for you to start putting your gifts into action, to start sharing your magic with the world at whatever stage that you're at, and really just leaning into that, really leaning into your gifts and into your magic and just self-actualizing them and seeing how you can then pour into the collective. Because again, it really is a cycle of having more energy to be able to pour outward versus that white moon cycle where they're bleeding with the new moon, where they are really focused on pouring their energy inward. And the purple moon cycle. So this is bleeding with a waning moon, or as the moon is appearing to get smaller in the sky, approaching a new moon. And I was in a purple moon cycle for honestly a majority of this year. I just moved into a red moon cycle, which is really exciting for me. But the purple moon cycle, I used to fear being in that because it can come with a lot of heaviness. Like this one, I would really associate with the luteal phase and really just that shedding. It's another very transitional and transformative cycle to be in, like the pink moon cycle, but in the opposite way, where the pink moon cycle, you're really exploring, you're trying new things. Like it's really more of this bright, vibrant energy versus the purple moon cycle is more of shedding and releasing, seeing what in your life needs to go, what is no longer in alignment. And if we, again, bring this back to business, thinking about what in your business needs to go, what no longer feels aligned for you in your work, in your business, with your clients, whatever it is, and then letting that go. And really just, this is a beautiful time too, to just really sit with yourself, to be with yourself, to be in that like reflective space. And the reason why knowing all of these cycles is important is because one, obviously it's important to know which one you're in and really like track that. And it truly, guys, is so interesting. It's been really crazy to track this within myself and see how spot on it is. And then to just like see my cycle change and move from one cycle to another and how it just correlates with everything going on in my life at that time. It's actually mind blowing sometimes how connected we as women are to the earth and to the cosmos. But it's also just important to be connected and know about these cycles as well, because it goes into the spiral path. Because if we're talking about like the pink moon cycle versus the purple moon cycle, the pink moon cycle really is a spiral outward. It is a spiral of expression and really expressing yourself outward and just going after things, versus this purple moon cycle is really a time for you to spiral inward, for you to reflect and shed and release. And they have such different energies, but they're both so powerful in their own way. And that's why it's really important to not resist the more difficult ones. And I'm like, that's probably why I was in a purple moon cycle for a minute, because my body just knew. She was like, you've got some stuff, shed. And so the spiral, the symbol of the spiral represents the womb, and the womb really does have this energy vortex that continues to spiral because we're always pulling energy into our wombs. Our wombs, I always say it, are like energetic sponges pulling energy in, and then they transmute it and they transform it. And spirals have also just been a long time representation of the cosmic womb of the universe. If we think about galaxies, and then if we come to the earth and think about that as well, like seashells and just different spiral symbolism found all around in nature, and it's found within our wombs as well, which is why this is such a powerful and potent path for us women to be on and to really truly understand and embody. It really is this journey of spiraling inward, of befriending your shadows, of descending into the depths of your being to see what is hiding in there, to see what needs to be transformed and transmuted so that you can then spiral outwards, so that you can then express yourself and share your voice and share your wisdom and share your truth. Because in order to fully do that, and again, you guys, this is a lifelong path that we are on. But in order to fully share your magic and share your wisdom, you have to be willing to descend and go inward and to uncover what is like keeping you from doing that. What is in the way of you becoming this woman that you came here to be, and this woman who is here to share her unique magic with the world. It really is a stance between death and rebirth and rest and action, and it is the inhale and the exhale and the contraction and the expansion. It really is this path of duality and of truly embodying that and not being afraid to do so. And it's, again, the journey of becoming. It is not about about getting to any sort of destination. And that's not to say that you can't have goals, that you can't have things that you want to work towards, but don't let that make you strive for perfection in a sense. Like, allow yourself to continue to move on this spiral and know that anytime that you are pulled inward, anytime that you are pulled downward, it's not a bad thing. This again is your body communicating to you that there are things that need to be witnessed, that there are things that need to be transmuted so that you can then spiral outwards, so that you can ascend higher, so that you can share more of your magic and your wisdom, and so that you can just be more expansive, because that truly is what we are here to do. We are here to become. We are here to find who it is we are at our core and share that with the world in whatever way resonates with you. It's also really this journey of allowing the present to fulfill you, because so often when we are in that downward spiral, when we are in that descent, when we are being faced with our shadows and our pain and our grief and just all of the heaviness that doesn't feel so good to sit with sometimes, we try to rush our way out of it. We end up like dissociating because it doesn't feel good to be there. And this path really does ask you to just be present with it and to really find the purpose in your pain so that you can transmute it and alchemize it. And again, us women naturally and innately have the ability to do this in working with our cycles, in working with our womb, and in honoring and being devoted to the earth cycles as well. It's important to know that you might get lost over and over again. You most likely will, but with getting lost comes being found. Alrighty, you guys, we're going to get deeper into like the feminine path of the spiral. So of course I mentioned that it is very symbolic of the womb, and it is very symbolic of the descent and of rebirth. So in early Paleolithic womb cultures, the feminine journey was seen as a spiral path, aka this downward and inward movement along a non-linear cycle. And many temple spaces were actually modeled after this, essentially moving inward and downward into the womb of the earth, which symbolized the descent into the womb. And this is really what I take clients on, is this journey into their womb, this descent into their womb, so that they can be transformed into whatever the goal is at that point. But these temples essentially descended into the earth. And of course, there's the descent of them literally physically descending into the earth, but then there's also the ascent of them coming out of it after the ritual is done. But yeah, there were essentially just different temples around the world. There's one in Peru that is really beautiful, in Marais, Peru, and it's just these concentric circles that move down into the earth. And yeah, they would just hold rituals in all of these different temple spaces that were modeled after the spiral, modeled after the womb. And these were all happening pre-patriarchy, so prior to organized religion as we know it today. And when the womb was honored and revered and really seen as this like beautiful alchemical space where we can be transformed. Hi guys. I was editing this episode and I realized that I actually missed a really important piece speaking about goddesses and how the path of many goddesses is the spiral path. And of course, episode 3, I spoke about Persephone and kind of gave you guys some insight into her path, especially moving from that maiden energy into her queen energy by descending into the underworld. And this is such a beautiful representation of the spiral path, of that inward spiral, and really being pulled from the surface down into her underworld, down into her depths. And her descent isn't linear, it is cyclical. Each year, essentially, she returns below and dies to who she was and is reborn as a more wise version of herself. And this is especially what we go through in the wintertime. This is why this path is so important to be on and to be aware of and to just embrace, because every single winter, we, in the same way that the earth is, are moving into our own underworld so that parts of ourselves can shed and release and die so that we can step into more of that wisdom. Essentially, the spiral represents her revisiting these same themes, just with a deeper level of awareness every single time. And then again, again, if we just think about her journey in itself and the way that she descends into the underworld during the darker months, and then she is reborn again in springtime and everything is blooming. And again, this is just such a beautiful and my favorite representation of this path, of the spiral path, and of just moving through those cycles and really seeing her doing this and like having this story to anchor into and this archetype to anchor into really helps us to lean into that more within our own lives and to be guided on our own journey. Another beautiful goddess story that really represents the spiral path is the story of Inanna, and her spiral path essentially is her descending through the 7 gates of the underworld, and at each gate she has to strip away something and essentially like stripping away pieces of her identity. And in her story, it's really her crown, her jewels, her clothes, which is really symbolic of stripping away her ego and her illusions and power where it isn't necessarily serving her. And when she reaches the center, she has to meet her own shadow and she dies only to rise again transformed. And this is so symbolic of that journey of death and rebirth, that journey that we truly go through every single month as women. And we also go through with the seasons, as I spoke about, and where we have to die. We have to allow pieces of ourselves and pieces within our life, situation, relationships, all the different things. We have to let those die to make room for new things to come in, to make room for more wisdom. And her journey really just does represent that spiral of death and rebirth and of moving into the underworld and shedding all of the things that no longer serve her, all of the things that maybe are even difficult to shed and let go of. And it really can be a difficult journey. Like, it's not necessarily meant to be easy, but it's so beautiful once you continue to move through that journey, and it feels so liberating. If you want to feel liberated, like, this is pure liberation. But each cycle that she goes through really helps her to deepen in her embodiment and in her sovereignty and in her power in a way that is empowering, not destructive. So if we think about the masculine and the feminine, of course, the masculine really is that linear path. It is a path of progress to achievement to success. And if we think about like men actually, and bringing it back to the cycle and hormones, men move through the same hormonal cycle every single day, every 24 hours. It is the same thing. And that relates to the sun as well. Of course, the sun, we have a 24-hour cycle versus the feminine and the moon, and how we move through a 28-day cycle on average, and how the moon also moves through its own like 29-day cycle. But it really just shows that this feminine path is cyclical, that it really is this growth and expansion and then this contraction. And if we think about the moon moving into a full moon and that brightness and fullness of the moon, and then moving to a new moon where we don't see it at all, and that truly is the path of the feminine. And we, again, as I explained earlier, we move through that in our own cycle as well, with menstruation versus ovulation and just throughout the entire cycle. But women tend to hold a lot of unconscious shame around this because we live in a society where the masculine path of progress and achievement and success is rewarded. And so that leaves us women kind of feeling like failures if we can't adhere to that path. And we aren't meant to, but we also don't live in a society that has necessarily taught or initiated us women into our cyclical nature and how we are actually meant to move through life. We were just born into societies that teach us how to move through life on a masculine path and in a way that works for men's bodies and not for women's bodies. And also even past our own bodies, because our cycle, our menstrual cycle, is so much more than a physical, physiological, biological process. It is very much so spiritual, and the womb as well. And like, there's such a different path of women's connection to their spirituality, to their divinity than men, because of the cycle that we move through. And that is, again, something that we are not initiated into as women. I won't get too into it, but that is also, if we think about like pre-patriarchy and pre-organized religion, again, what was honored and revered and represented in all of these early civilizations and cultures was the honoring of the womb, the reverence of the womb, of the earth womb, women's wombs, and the cosmic womb. And women truly were seen as divine because they could bring life into the world, and they were honored, they were revered. And then we moved into the patriarchal times and organized religion, where we were essentially taught to worship something outside of ourselves, to worship a male god, and it took that divinity away from the feminine. And that just again goes into like our hypermasculine society and why women hold so much unconscious shame about the way that our bodies work, and even to the point that so many women probably don't even fully know or aren't fully connected and embodied in that, and then that just adds to that shame. So some real life examples of this spiral path for you guys, just to kind of like ground it in and allow you to connect to it. But one really huge one is our creative cycles. So of course we move through cycles where we feel super creative, we feel super inspired, and this also really ties into our cycle as well. I'm sure if you track your cycle, you notice it a lot. But sometimes we're in creative seasons and we have all this inspiration, and then other times we're in seasons where we need to go inward and we need to really sit and transmute and transform this energy that's going on within us so that we then can step back into this creative season, because you are not meant to be creative 100% of the time. You are not meant to be creating 100% of the time. While that is such a like big, beautiful aspect of the feminine, sometimes you really have to go inward and then channel whatever you are moving and transforming and transmuting within you into creativity. It really is this cycle where you really can pull that inspiration from descending inward. And then another one is the emotional healing journey. And this is something that I have learned so heavily on my path. At the beginning of my journey, really thought that I would heal something and then it was healed and that it wouldn't come back, which thinking back to it, I'm like, okay, Amanda, but we are always meeting different and deeper aspects of these same emotional healing things. So I guess for me, a huge wound that I have been working through and continue to work through is this abandonment wound that I have from childhood. And I have done so much work on it, but there are moments in my life where it spirals around and I meet it deeper, where something triggers me. There's something in my life that triggers me, that triggers a different like facet of that wound or just a deeper part of it. And it really is this journey of just continuing to witness and explore these things on a deeper level as we move throughout our life. Like we are never healed necessarily, like, and that really shouldn't be the goal, because that puts us in the mindset of needing to fix ourselves or needing to heal in order to be worthy. But it's more so this journey of just like witnessing. And yes, you can do healing work. Like I do healing work. I'm a full firm believer in that, and especially like energetic healing and somatic healing. But you can't get rid of anything. You can only transmute and transform it. And you're just going to always be meeting different triggers throughout your life. Like life is one big fat mirror, and these things are never fully going to go away, which is why it's really crucial to adopt this concept of the spiral path and know that you're going to meet things at a deeper level, but just having compassion for yourself while you do that. So again, I know a lot of my listeners have their own businesses, they're entrepreneurs, and this is another beautiful space in our lives where we can witness a spiral path, because we will go through seasons in our business where our offers feel so beautiful and so aligned and so juicy, and then you go through a season where they don't, and you need to kind of rearrange things, you need to shed things, you need to get rid of things, you need to essentially birth a new business. And that is something that is so cool and beautiful about having your own business, is that you get to follow that. You get to follow that wisdom of your body and know that it's okay to shed things, that it's okay to let go of things. And it's not always the easiest thing, and sometimes it can be really confusing, but just knowing that that truly is a very normal and natural process to go through. Also knowing that your business will really flow with your own emotional journey, with your own emotional healing journey, and that there are going to be moments in your life where you don't have a lot to give outward, and there are going to be moments moments in your life where you have so much to give to your clients or the people that you serve, just knowing that it doesn't make you a failure when you are moving through those times, that you kind of have to take a step back and that it is okay to do that. And I think, again, the key here is really learning how to trust that, really learning how to trust your body and trust that you are supported while you're doing that. And just knowing that it really means that you are so deeply attuned to your energy and the way that you are meant to serve. So again, you are not a failure. You are just very deeply connected to yourself and your body and your clients and your business and all of that. And the last example that I have for a real life example, which we could probably go into so many, but relationships. Your relationships are such a huge part of this spiral path. And as you continue on this path of becoming and this path of really shedding what is no longer in alignment, you might find that there are some relationships in your life that are no longer in alignment, and you may be asked to shed the relationships from your life, or you may be asked to grow in them in different ways. And this, again, is why it is so important to be so deeply connected and attuned to your body to know whether or not, like, is this something that I am meant to continue to grow in, or is this something that I am needing to leave behind so that I can step forward on my path? And in terms of like long-term romantic relationships, it's really normal for you to go through ebbs and flows with that person. You both are human beings on this path of growth and expansion. As you are on your own inward journey and really finding yourself, you might run into times where you really just need to focus on you, where you need to retreat a bit, and that's okay. And again, like knowing that we as women, we need that. We need that time to go inward and to retreat and to be with ourselves in order to essentially like dig through what is going on within us. And then we can come back and relay that to our partner and actually like work through that with our partner. And that's why it's so important to have a partner who really supports you and can understand this, and somebody who is willing to work with you, somebody who is open to trusting you and trusting your intuition and trusting your wisdom, because us as women and the wisdom that we hold and download and just everything that we get intuitively is so important for our romantic relationships, because we are the one who is able to essentially get that wisdom and like get those visions and then relay that to our partner and work together with our partner to grow and expand together. Alrighty, you guys. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own spiral path. And I was really trying to reflect on this, and there's a lot. There's a lot, which I know there is for all of us. And I don't know how organized this is going to be, so bear with me. But I just really wanted to give you guys some insight and just a real life example of how this path presents. Because one, it's going to be different for everybody, but two, I think there are so many aspects of this path that aren't widely talked about. Of course, we live in an age where on social media, we're seeing everybody's highlight reel and like all the good, beautiful things. And we're all also still going through a lot of really difficult things at the same time. So yeah, I just want to be really open and real and raw and honest with you guys. I literally was like trying to write down some notes to keep myself organized. My journey really started back in 2020. So I was in a car accident in 2020, a pretty bad car accident that honestly like jolted me into a spiritual awakening. It was kind of crazy. And it was really this beginning of my healing journey. And of course, I had a lot of physical injuries from that accident, and it was something where I started to do energetic healing and energy work to help those injuries and to really like see what was kind of under the surface. And that was really when I began to strive for perfection in my healing journey. That is when I thought like, okay, if I just do this, this, and this, then I'll be okay. Then I'll get what I want. And then it just like truly never stopped. And I think if you are on this path, you know that it literally does not ever stop. And that's why I mentioned earlier, it's so important to be present in it and to like know that it's okay. It's okay to just like be and feel and experience your life and your path in whatever way you need to, because it truly is a lifelong journey. But yeah, this really just like opened a can of worms for me. It really opened me up to my path, and I was just on this really deep path of healing so much pain and trauma and just like digging into all of my childhood trauma and like ancestral trauma. And then soon after that really came my womb awakening journey. And this is when I really began to kind of settle into this idea of the spiral path. First, at the beginning, I definitely still kind of was falling into that victim mentality of like, truly, what is next? Like, I was in a car accident, I had shoulder surgery, I had neck injuries, all this stuff, went through multiple years of treatment, and then developed endometriosis, and then was having to deal with all of that. I was missing out on so much in my life, and like really did fall into that victim mentality for a while there. And it's hard not to. If you are in that situation, it's okay. It really is okay to be in that victim mentality because it is hard. It's really hard to deal with that. And especially like for me in my own journey, how old was I for my accident? 2020. I think I was 22, 23 when I got in my accident and moved through, like pretty much my 20s were me moving through healing these physical things, but then it also brought up so much energetically as well and emotionally. But with endometriosis, this brought up a lot. My womb awakening journey, my endo journey, it brought up so much and so much ancestral trauma and just stuff from my mom and my grandma. It brought up a lot around my sexuality and just the way that I experienced this. And it brought up so much of me realizing that who I was for a majority of my life wasn't who I actually am to my core. And it was essentially just this big becoming that I'm still on and will be on forever. But in terms of sexuality, like it really brought up how I held this deep rooted belief that I was only meant to pleasure my partner, that like I wasn't worthy of that myself, and that was not for me at all, and that was something that I had to give in order to receive love back. And so that's just been a really big thing that I've been working through and moving through. And it's something that truly is this spiral path of continuing to meet on a deeper level, and something that has been really difficult to move through. And I think it's something that honestly a lot of women probably experience because we live in a society where we are conditioned to believe that. We are conditioned to think that we have to essentially give to men in this way in order to be worthy of love back, and that our pleasure isn't a priority. And even if we think back to the religious talk, like this is a sin in religion, like women experiencing pleasure and that being for women is so demonized. And that's just something that's so deeply rooted within us women, and something that I really woke up to and found within my womb on my womb awakening journey. And again, endometriosis really spurred this journey for me. And even just so much, gosh, I'm like, I don't even know the words to put around it, but just again, a lot of ancestral stuff too on this journey that I have been continuing to meet at deeper and deeper levels, and these wounds of abandonment and wounds of betrayal even, and like lack of trust. A lot that I was carrying from my mom, a lot that I was carrying from my grandma, and like these things that I continue to just meet as well. And I think one of the biggest things that I have experienced and continue to meet at different layers on my own spiral path is shame. And shame is such a deep, heavy emotion that we hold on to, especially within our wombs as women. It's something that we hold on to from our own experiences, but again, from our ancestors. And last winter, probably about a year ago, last October, November 2024, I was truly thrown into my own underworld. Like last winter was really hard for me, really, really hard, and really forced me to just meet such deep layers of my being. And it was just at a point too where I, especially with my business and growing in my business, it was something that I knew that I needed to do and needed to sit with those things in order for me to get to where I am right now, in order for me to be here recording a podcast. Like I had to meet those aspects of myself, and shame truly was one of the like biggest pieces of that for me. And it's something that I just like continue to spiral deeper into, but I continue to hold more and more compassion for myself as I do. And years ago, back in like 2021, 2022, a lot of the shame that I held was shame for my body, shame for how my body looked, and shame around just not being good enough and really not feeling good enough in my relationship, even though my partner has never made me feel that way. It was always my own shame around how I felt about myself and my body. And that even plays back into the sexuality thing and intimacy. And us women hold so much shame around the way that we look, no matter what it is within ourselves, that we don't fully express ourselves in that way. And then I, of course, began to experience a lot of shame around my sexuality and shame around the lack of it too, because especially while I was dealing with endometriosis, while I was really in the thick of it, I was in so much pain all the time. Like it literally felt like I had a constant UTI because it was on my bladder. It burned every time I had to use the bathroom. I remember I was at a friend's bachelorette party while I was in the thick of it, and I couldn't go out and drink with everybody and have fun and party because I was in so much pain. And it was truly really heartbreaking to miss out on different experiences, especially in my 20s. But with that came a lot of shame around then not providing my partner with what he wanted and needed, and really losing out on a lot within our sex life. And that was really hard. And it's something that I continue to move through and work through as well. But it just brought up then that shame around, like it brought up that wound of me feeling like sex and pleasure is only for a man. And then I felt like I wasn't giving that. And then it brought up the feelings of, well, it isn't just about him, it's about me too. And just like at this point, it's not even a spiral. It's all over the place, but I think you guys get it. It also just brought up so much shame of needing more help. Obviously, with my car accident, I had numerous surgeries and operations and had surgery for endometriosis back in 2023 as well. And so just over the span of a couple years was getting a lot of medical treatment done. I had a shoulder surgery where I couldn't lift more than 5 pounds for, I think it was 3 months. So I was helpless and I needed a lot of help, and it really taught me how to ask for help and how to be okay asking for help. But it also at the same time brought up so much shame in asking for help and in receiving help from others. And it's something, again, that I continue to spiral with around receiving and asking for help, and something that I encounter honestly every single day at this point, because I do still deal with pain in my neck. I still deal sometimes with endo pain, which honestly has been getting better, and I'm excited to chat more about that. But a lot of pain still in my neck. Like my body really does get exhausted and I need help. And I pretty much every single day I have to ask my partner for help with something. And there's still that layer of shame there that I am exploring and meeting at a deeper level. And even just different instances in my life recently, especially in the last couple of months, where I have received so much help and support from different people in my life, where I have had to meet that shame again and face that shame of receiving, of allowing myself to receive. And it's something that I know I'm going to have to meet again in the future, and just like really is this constant spiral path. I've also held a lot of shame. We're still on the shame here, you guys, because this is such a big one. And I truly do think that shame is like the biggest, heaviest, most potent thing to work with, and something that lives within our bodies and specifically within our wombs. But with that, it's also one of the most powerful things to transmute, because if we think about my shame around receiving and receiving help and receiving support from those around me, if I sit and play victim to that, then I close myself off from receiving. I close myself off from receiving support if I just continue to play victim to that shame. But when I sit with that shame, when I am face to face with that shame, when I go and journey into my womb and really see where this is coming from and move through what I need to move through, do the like energetic healing and all of the beautiful somatic tools that I do to work with that shame, I transmute it and then I open myself up to receive more. I open myself up to more expansiveness of feeling safe and receiving. And that really is like what the purpose of this spiral path is to sit with those things, to sit with that heaviness, to sit with the things that feel so wildly uncomfortable to sit with so that you can transmute it into whatever it is, so that you can receive more, so that you can expand more, so that you can use your voice and share your magic more. I've also held a lot of shame around my interests and the things that I feel excited and passionate about, which I've clearly created an entire business and podcasts about that. And that just goes to show like how much I've worked through that shame, because me a year ago, I could not have done this. I could not be sitting here right now talking to you guys about my shame. I would not have been able to do that a year ago. And that's exactly what I took last winter to really work through, was all of this shame that I have, all of these things that are keeping me and blocking me from using my voice and sharing my wisdom and my magic and my experiences, and just being fully open and vulnerable and raw so that I can help other women, because that's what I want to do. And that truly is my purpose. And I used to feel so scared of sharing on social media, of just expressing myself on social media. And now I feel excited to. It just feels so good and so liberating. But I know that this is something that I'm continuing to meet. I'm still meeting this shame. It just feels a lot lighter. It feels a lot different. I feel more equipped to meet it. And with us moving now back into wintertime, I really do feel myself being pulled back deeper into this. I feel myself being pulled down into my underworld, descending and spiraling inward so that I can meet more of these things that need to be transmuted and alchemized in order for me to step into more expansion. God, you guys, I had so many notes about shame. Clearly, your girl is holding a lot. But again, it really is, I think, one of the most like potent emotions that we hold within our wombs and within our bodies. And like, I'm just going to cut it off at this one because there's a lot. If you guys want more, let me know. But the shame in saying no, the shame in having boundaries, the shame in listening to my body and what my body wants to do and saying no if I don't feel aligned, because that is hard. That is hard for women to do because we have been so deeply conditioned to be the good girl, to always say yes, to not honor our boundaries, to not even like know what our boundaries are, and just always be there to please others. And so this is one that, again, is really making its way to the surface for me this winter. And it's something I've been working on for a long time. And I know it's just going to keep presenting itself in different ways throughout my life. But again, I feel more equipped to work with it and more equipped to face it and witness it and alchemize it and transmute it and all of that beautiful stuff. And honestly, every time that we have said yes when our bodies have meant no, we are really accumulating that within our body and within our womb. And that's why, another reason why it's so important to witness these things. Because again, the more that we shove it all down, the more that we resist it, the more that we ignore it, the more it's going to build up, and it's just taking up space within your body and within your whole energetic field. But when you alchemize that, when you transmute that, when you transform it, you make space for new things to come in. You make space for new ways of being and new ways of thinking, and you make space for this like beautiful, big, bold, expansive version of you to come out, who has been like hiding under all of that heaviness. So in order to really embody your spiral path, really working with your cycle, working with the earth seasons, working with different feminine archetypes, working with your womb are all such potent and beautiful ways to do this, because obviously I spoke a lot about our womb and our cycle and the earth cycles in this episode. And I'm sure that you can feel it. You can feel yourself kind of being pulled in as we are descending into darker days, as we are descending into winter. And it's probably something that you feel every winter, honestly. And I was thinking about it the other day, but seasonal depression, I know that there is science behind this, you guys. I know that, but I'm always thinking of the energetic side of things. And truly, I think that that could be alleviated if we really honored what winter actually is. And it is this time where these things do come to the surface naturally. Like all of the heaviness and the darkness and the pain and everything is coming to the surface so heavily in winter because it wants to be alchemized, because it wants to be transmuted and transformed so that you can step again into this higher purpose come springtime. And so that leads me into a beautiful, exciting, special announcement. I'm so excited. I really am so excited for this. Drum roll, please. I am announcing the Spiral Path Sisterhood, which is going to be a monthly membership where we are going to walk the spiral path together, where I am going to be your guide on your spiral path of descending, of going inward, of working with the seasons, and then also ascending and spiraling outward and learning how to really take what it is that you are transmuting and expressing that outward so that you can step into more of your power and your magic and your wisdom. Because I know that if you are listening to this episode, you are somebody who has such beautiful, powerful, potent magic to share with the world. And what you need to do is allow yourself to go inward, allow yourself to descend and spiral inward so that you can peel back those layers and essentially uncover that woman that you are becoming. And this is really a membership where we are going to become together, and we are going to be held in our messiness together. It is not a place to strive for perfection at all. It is a place where truly like anything and everything is welcome. And I really just want it to be a space that feels nourishing and healing for you, and a space that you can come to learn and to grow and to expand and to just like meet yourself on deeper levels. We're going to have monthly calls. I'm going to do live meditations with you guys and like activations, energy healings, womb awakening. We're going to do a lot with the feminine archetypes, with goddess archetypes as well. That is truly one of my most favorite things. If you haven't listened to episode 3 about Persephone, definitely go back and do that. And yeah, it's just, I just have this vision for a beautiful sisterhood where we don't have to hold it all together, where we can just grow and expand in our messiness and in our chaos together and literally create magic from that. The link is in the show notes to secure your spot for the Spiral Path Sisterhood, and definitely let me know if you have any questions and spread the word to any other women in your life that you think would benefit from this as well. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all of the beautiful things. And please do let me know how this episode resonated. If there's anything that you have questions on, that you want clarity on, or just sharing your favorite parts of the episode. Like I really do love to hear how these land for you guys. And yeah, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Hi guys. I realized another thing that I left out that is so important, but the theme for the spiral path in December is the underworld within, where we are really going to walk that path of just like stripping away and shedding everything that is keeping us from really rising into our power, everything that needs to go in order for us to emerge into a more empowered version of ourselves, into a more liberated version of ourselves. And this is a theme for December. And then, of course, we're going to continue to work with this theme of our shadows and the underworld and stillness and death and rebirth through the winter months. And then come springtime, we are beginning to shift that energy and kind of move into more of that rebirth energy and that blooming and that building phase. And so the spiral path, again, is really just this beautiful membership where, of course, you can come and go as you please, but I'd love to have you there as long as you want to stay, where we're going to be working with the earth seasons because it has such a beautiful, big impact on us, and our bodies, again, are so deeply connected to this. And I'm truly just going to be guiding you guys through all of the things that I have done, all of the tools and practices and just things that come through my channel to really help you on your own spiral path, to help you move through your own inner seasons and to move through the outer seasons, and just all of the beautiful like alchemical power and potential that we hold as women.